Autumn Athletes, Larry Sorensen here, and today I'm going to talk with Denis Champagne and find out what makes him an autumn athlete that's not done yet. Before we get started, please remember, if you like our content, like, subscribe, and ding the bell for notifications. Okay, let's get things started here. Denis, thanks again for joining us today to let us know your story. Why don't you kick us off with a little introduction?
Okay, well, my name is Denis Champagne. I'm born and raised in Ottawa, Canada. I'm 65 years old. I've been married for 10 years, and I run my own business. I'm a consultant, a coach in the go-to-market and B2B sales and marketing. And my background has been in professional sports and indoor racket sports. But then I did cycling, and now I'm into strength lifting.
So speaking of some of those activities, why don't you take us back a little bit and give us some history on your athletic endeavors?
It's funny because I was thinking through as I was preparing for this interview. I said, what really was the springboard or that moment or that special moment in your life where you go back to that one moment and you kind of get a sense of what happened? It happened to me at the age of 7 years old. There was a kind of an Olympic event. It was kind of a 2-day event where you go through like 10 major events. I remember everything seemed so easy. Like, I would do things and it was like, that's not a problem doing that. And I'd see other people struggle. And I said, what's wrong with these people? But I remember at the end, I ended up winning the second best athlete of the whole competition.
Hmm.
And I was the youngest. The other two were like 12, 13, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that drove me to accomplish things. I ran a marathon in 1977, the only one I ever ran. So that was kind of the drive. And then I went into racket sports. I did ping pong in high school, and then junior tennis at a private club where I was allowed because it was inexpensive for a junior in the private club. And then I took to squash. I fell in love one night after a doubles match in tennis. We were drinking beer. I went downstairs, went into the squash guy. I said, yeah, I could do this. And next thing I know, 3 years later, I'm a teaching pro. So that was that. And then later on in life, a number of events, I took to cycling, which I had done a little bit before. And then a few years down the road, I did a couple of 200-mile race, like an event for charity. I said, I want to race. So I hired a coach. I called the coach, found an amazing coach, and I raced for 5 years internationally. And after 6 days a week of training for 5 years, that's drained you. Especially at the sprint. I was a sprinter on track at the end. I was more of a track than a road cyclist in the last few years. Yeah, lo and behold, now I'm lifting weights. I decided to get strong and big and protect myself from the old age. We all know what happens when you lose muscle and lose bone density. Mm-hmm. So that's where I am, helping people my age or younger or older in becoming strong and healthy, in the later years of their lives.
So why don't you give us some highlights of some of the achievements that you acquired during those different sports through the years?
Obviously in squash, there are different levels. So there's D level, which is kind of the first intermediate beginner. So I won a D championship, pretty quickly, and then move on to C, and then move on to B. And the A class is really the best in the country or the best in the big cities. And in Canada, Toronto was the epicenter and the hub for professional squash, and there I ended up finishing in the top teams. There was A, and then there was a special class called AA, and I ended up being on the team playing in the AA league, and we went to the finals of the Toronto District, championships, played some professional events, trained with some international pros who came to Toronto for world championships or, classics, cup classics. I was a certified referee. I developed my certification over years. It takes a long time to be a fully certified coach. And I learned so much. What I won, certain events, traveling. For me, the victory was to qualify into a pro event, just that. Because I started when I was 18 in squash, 19. So I was just very damn proud to be able to play racquetball and A squash, and win 1 or 2 tournaments. That was just for me the epitome, And in cycling, well, I've had several podiums. I had 6 bronze medals at the national championships in the Masters category of mine as a sprinter or as a speed cyclist. It was an amazing experience to do the World Championships, qualified in my second time as a top 10, under 12 seconds of the 200-meter sprint. And I won a silver medal at the Pan American Championships, which was an amazing accomplishment in Cuba. Well, most of them were North Americans, but mostly South American racers, which they have velodromes every corner in the streets in some parts of Argentina and Colombia. Velodromes are bigger there than in the United States or Canada. So that was an amazing travel and train 6 days a week for 5 years, and have that. Regional championships I've won. Criterium. I don't know if you know what a criterium is. It's, you race around a certain circumference of a series of streets that are blocked off, and you just keep going around and around for an hour. And a few minutes before the closing, based on the average, the revolution of 1.4 kilometer or 1 mile loop, they ring the bell, knowing the first groups, the 30 and over, have to race and sprint at the very end. Then they get out of the way and we continue. And then the 40 have one loop, and then the next loop is the ding, 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 and they race and sprint. And then, so I won my category 1 year, top 3 in some areas, especially on the sprint side.
Yeah.
So, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of devotion.
Sure.
Now I kind of prefer to help others and be just bloody, very, very, very strong. Well, strength, I had a wonderful coach, and Yannick was Mr. Universe 1998 natural in Ba.
Yeah.
He was the man. So I'm eternally grateful for that.
How about some PRs? What's your PRs? And
So I was exposed to training with him because in the program as a sprinter, inevitably, out of 6 days, 3 days are in the gym, 3 days are on your bike, more or less, depending on the phase in the year. If it's pre-comp, just preparation season before pre-comp preparation, and there's the middle phase where you're developing certain qualities. I was exposed to lifting, but now lifting, what I'm doing now is barbell lifting, so it's really strength oriented, and I focus on the 4 compound lifts, namely the deadlift, the low bar squat, the overhead press, and the bench. And my PRs so far is 415 for the squat. The deadlift, I achieved 465. I know I can do 305, 310 on my bench. It's forthcoming in the next few days. I'm going to go attempt that PR. But I hit 295 before that. And on the overhead press tonight, actually, after this interview, I'm going to do some presses, singles at 202, 205.
So do you have any pending goals? I mean, you just said you're going to try to PR. Do you have any competitions or anything specifically that you're reaching for, or particular goals that you're reaching for right now?
So I'm in the 1,000-pound club, as they call it, which is one thing. So this year I decided I want to hit 2 plates or 225 for my overhead press, 1 RM. I'd like to hit 440 at the squat. On the bench, definitely, I know I can achieve 3 plates or 315. I think that I can smell it. It's that close, the confidence and everything.
Yeah.
And you need to be a big boy. So I gained weight from 200 to 240 in 4 years, because you need mass, you need to build muscle to get those upper body lifts there. And I'd like to hit deadlift 500. I'm at 465. So, those are the goals for the year. I have my coach. I visit on Zoom or on video conferencing every week. I use the starting strength method, which is a program developed by a powerlifter out of Wichita Falls, who's been around for a long, long time. Anybody who's lifting, who's listening to this, will say, yeah, we know Mark Ripito and starting strength. But the methodology, the common sense, and the knowledge and the background they have is very credible, and it's helped me to achieve those lifts. So I use 225 the press, 315 the bench, 440 the squat, 500 the deadlift.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about this program. Why don't you just take us to the gym today and give us an idea of what your lifting routine would be like?
So when I get there, I will obviously, when I get ready, I wear compression clothing because I used to use them when I was training, and compression clothing is really a good way of recovering. So when I come home and I have my dinner, I'm already recovered. So I have a clothing for the pant and the top, and then I have a bar grip sweater, which has kind of very adhesive backings to allow me to have when I bench, it actually adheres to the table surface to really brace properly the positioning. And I'll go there and I'll obviously find the squat cage that's available. I have my whey protein isolate that I bring a bottle and I consume continuously because there's a little bit of sugar in there. And for upper body lifts, which is today, bench and press tonight, I will start with the bar. I always start with just the bar itself. And when I do that, I simulate in my mind as though I was holding 202 pounds.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, the muscles don't contract, but if you mentally call upon your body to contract as though you did have it, you start innervating the mind muscle connection to prepare you for the progressive warm ups. And as I go closer to my one or singles that I'm going to do tonight on a press, I reduce the number of reps. So I'll put 135. I'll do 4 of those. Then I'll add another 50 pounds or 25s, and I'll do one. Well, in this case, I'll do 165. I'll add 30 pounds, do 3 of them. Then 185s, I'll do 1 or 2. Then I'll hit 195, do 1, take a bigger break, and then get on my 202 and start doing my singles. For the bench, today is 5 sets of 5, so it's a low volume day. So I'm at 252 and a half. So I have micro plates that I put on the bar besides the 2.5 because it's a 1.25 plate on each side to reach, because you can't progress from 250 to 252 and a half with the plates over there. It goes up 5. It's a 2.5 pound plate on each side. So I'll do a 1.25 plate. I even have 1 pound plates for my wife for progressive increase. And I'll do 5 sets of 5, and it's a volume, but I had a hard, kind of squat and deadlift or rack pulls on Tuesday. So, Sunday I have a big day with heavy squats and heavy
Mhm.
deadlift.
Tell us your nutrition plan.
I was very fortunate back in 2007 when I started with cycling and racing, because I did from 2007 to 2012, 5 years. And up and right away, I was at 205, 200. That was a normal, more or less my weight. And I went down to 185 to be a road cyclist. And the program I had was called a hypermetabolic regimen, which means you eat 6 times a day and you add the units of protein. So you achieve the protein intake for the day, interspersed with maybe every 2.5 hours, you have a small meal. And then you have, higher protein, like 2.5 units. Then the next one's 2.5 units, 2, and then 2.5, 2.5 on the other 2 last ones. But the carbs and the lipids or fats remain constant in terms of what. And then he gave me a sheet with, a plethora of choices of kinds of foods that he recommends. Obviously, he was a bodybuilder, so he had that knowledge of how to manipulate the variables for your eating. So I stuck to that as much as I could. As I got towards more sprinting and less road cycling or distance, and it was more sprint, pure sprint, then I would add a little bit more carb, just for the extra energy. Because when you do, let's say, 6 flying 200 meters, and let me tell you, the fourth, fifth, and sixth, your hands are trembling, just from the fatigue accumulated in the nervous system.
Mhm.
Um, Usually your second or third attempt is your best time, and then it goes downwards from there. So yeah, but it was a really a very eye-opening experience to see it actually happen to your body. You feel it's burning inside of you. Your torso diminishes, and my coach would see me from month to month said, geez, you're starting to really look like a roadie, because
Mm,
I was lean and mean, right?
yeah.
But strong at the same time. And so today I know that being strong will always help an aerobic athlete, but most aerobic athletes don't understand that. It's
Mhm.
still not in the collective consciousness of coaches. But for sure, if I had an endurance athlete, I would make him do some strength training because
Yeah.
more muscle helps you to oxygenate better, transfer oxygen transport is better. You use less of your fibers. It's just and it makes up for the extra weight you carry, you
Yeah.
know. So it was very useful. But yeah, that's I eat, over the years I've developed a healthy relationship with my own life. And so I had a better relationship with food because there's nothing more intimate as a relationship in your life than what you put in your mouth. When you think about that, the
Mhm.
most intimate relationship you ever have is what goes out of your mouth or into your mouth and out somewhere else. So it's really intimate. So you have to kind of appreciate yourself and say, what am I putting in? Like you wouldn't dare do that to a car, but you do it to yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's become a very much a joyful experience to, okay, what am I going to eat today, right? What fuel am I going to provide for my body, my life, my brain, right? And I've inspired myself from Dr. Robert Lustig, a neuroendocrinologist who's a pediatric doctor who wrote several books, but he says protect the liver, feed the gut, and it's my modus operandi.
You train hard, you eat well. What motivates you at 65 to keep going?
Death. No, it's just being well, just feeling like something happens to you when I walk into the gym. Okay, I'm first of all I'm one of the strongest guys there, and I'm the oldest. So go figure. There's a problem there. That's what's wrong with that picture. Very few people know how to train properly, and it's not for lack of information available. They just don't know how to compass themselves or orient themselves to go to the right sources. I've always, like I said, prided myself on knowing because of my kinesiology studies at Ottawa University. I didn't finish it, but I had enough there, plus professional coaching, that I know where to get the right source. And when someone talks, I know that they know what they're talking about, and I know when they're full of baloney. It was a question of acquiring that right information. And when you walk and you're strong and you look like a lifter, people take notice. They notice. They know and it's not, I don't spend my time in the mirror, but I like what I see. And I've obviously, when you take on 40 pounds, it's not the same as those pictures when you were a cyclist with your bib and
Mm.
your cycling jersey. It's another kind of body type. But I like what I see, and it helps me to metabolize better. For sure, it staves off a lot of disease. Um, Muscle is intimately related to longevity. There's far too much information now. My own clinical personal experience has shown me that, eating real food and not being interested in cutting costs on my health
Mhm.
because you either pay now or you pay later. So when I walk around my granddaughter, when I pick her up, she's 10, I if I can do 200-pound press, I can lift her up easily.
Yeah.
So, and my wife obviously feels protected, and it's just a feeling of myself. But also, older people tend to suffer mortality more faster after a trauma or falling or breaking a bone. There's far too many things. So I think that's probably the number one reason is I have a lot of protective tissue, namely muscle, and I have tremendous insulin sensitivity. I have great metabolism. All my blood tests and histochemical are all through the roof. I had bone density tests, DEXA. So it's just really the first motivation is health and strength, just being a very strong person.
Do you do anything on social media? Is there a place that we can find you out there?
I tend to be a lot on Starting Strength, the actual platform. I just recently got on one called Squat Bench Deadlift. I'm there just to promote proper training, proper practice. I have several clients who are friends of mine. They're in their late 50s. I have one who's 76. He's never felt so strong in his life. He says, I used to feel fragile.
Mm.
I don't feel fragile anymore, he says, right? So for me, if I can help someone to become less fragile and more self-sufficient on his own 2 feet, that is a payback for me. It's really a wonderful testament. And now it's full circle, and there is, valuable data out there and justification that CrossFit, strength, resistance training is really the way to go to have a healthy substance, kind of existence.
Well, Denis, really appreciate you spending the time with us, talking a little bit about what makes you an automathlete that's not done yet. I'm going to give you a chance to just close us out here with some final thoughts. So go ahead and address our audience.
We don't take consciousness of our existence and how important we are. And we spend more on things that really are not as important, and we neglect that which is most important. And that's our physicality, our existential goodness, our physiognomy that we carry. This is the entity that carries us around. So learn to care for yourself and build yourself to be a happy, strong person. Learn to prepare your mind for hard things. And when you do that, life is easier.
Yeah.
Versus doing things that are easy so that you have a hard existence.
Well, there you have it. Denis Champagne, an automathlete that's not done yet. Remember, folks, keep moving, set your goals, and train hard to achieve them. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time.